And we are recording with Dr. Roger Hodkinson, who got me my first ever strike on YouTube about a year and a half ago. And we've been banned from YouTube for about a year. And at some point during this episode, Dr. Robert Malone might be poking his head in. But for all future listeners, today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 2:01 p.m. Eastern Time. This is episode 885. And Dr. Hodkinson is here to speak to us about the new terror pandemic of monkeypox, what it is, should we be scared of it? Obviously, it's a real thing, much like COVID is a real thing, but is this something to be actually scared about? And well, we shouldn't really be scared about anything because nobody lives forever. But is this just another pandemic? Is this just another reason for lockdowns? It seems that the high value contracts are already being doled out. Emergency use purchases are already being made by world governments. So the money machine is rolling already. Dr. Hodkinson, what say you?
Well, a couple of things. Monkeypox has been around for a number of years. It's a squirrel virus that got into the monkey population in West Africa, and then got into humans because they do eat monkeys over there. And it's been around for quite some time. What's different this year is that there's been a significant increase in the number of cases. Now, you have to ask yourself, how can this be? What factors could be causing this? And of course, the most likely explanation is that the general immune suppression that we know this vaccine therapy, this gene therapy, we know the general immune suppression that's occurring is causing the emergence of infections that were previously chronic or dormant, such as shingles, for example, such as Bell's palsy, although we don't know the cause of that yet. And it's an example, I think, of the number of these. Of course, monkeypox is almost exclusively 99% a condition of male homosexuals. This is not a pejorative comment, it's simply an observation. And of course, many of those men would be HIV positive. Now, the stats are not in yet as to the prevalence of HIV positivity in the men who are getting monkeypox. But we know that HIV, of course, is a condition of immune suppression. We know that the gene therapy for COVID is a mechanism of profound immune suppression. And so we have a perfect storm, and that is probably the explanation why monkeypox is now emerging in larger numbers than it did previously.
So, could we reasonably predict that will also be, or there already also are other infectious diseases that are normally exist below, I guess, the public consciousness threshold level that will be occurring after monkeypox and then something after that, or are already occurring, but monkeypox is either the most numerically significant or simply the chosen one by the media? Do you think that that could be a case, and is that going to be addressed?
Yeah, Tommy, it's already happening. The emergence of polio again, with the attenuated virus, which was previously, not getting transmitted or was certainly not a public health problem. We're seeing the general emergence of infections, of which monkeypox, polio are relatively minor examples. The much bigger problem is the emergence of other more usual infections, you might say, in people who've been vaccinated, and particularly, of course, with COVID itself. I mean, the bizarre thing about this gene therapy is that it's intended to stop you getting it and being infected by it, whereas it's actually doing the opposite. we're now seeing categorical evidence that the hospitalization and deaths due to COVID are occurring predominantly in the vaccinated, not in the unvaccinated. And that's after correcting, obviously, for the prevalence issue, that there are a lot fewer people who've been unvaccinated. When you correct for that and express it on a per 100,000 basis, there's an overwhelming increase in COVID infections in the vaccinated, as the much bigger evidence of immune suppression.
And so I've had
sorry, Tommy, let me, if I may,
Yeah.
just extend that argument. For those people that haven't heard me say this before, the immune system is there to identify anything that's not you. Bugs are not you. And when the immune system is suppressed, bugs get the upper hand, as I described. But the immune system also has a very important role in identifying and knocking off very small cancers that don't develop into something that kills you, and you don't know about it. The immune system is surveilling your body every second of every day, when you're asleep, when whatever, every nook and cranny, identifying these tiny cancers and knocking them off. And that is another explanation for another example of the immune suppression causing this significant increase in cancer in people who've been vaccinated.
So I've interviewed a couple times Dr. Alex Diaz. He's a friend of Dr. McCullough's. I think he was in charge of like all southern border immigration health checks for a number of years. And he's been following monkeypox closely, and he texted me yesterday that this was yesterday. He said, quote, "Yesterday's numbers of monkeypox were 31,799 cases worldwide. Today is 36,589. So it's escalating exponentially." So regardless of if it is just fear mongering, or if it is something, or if it's a natural uptick in the, I guess, virulence of monkeypox, or if it is indeed vaccine immunodeficiency acquired, should it be something that I'm not vaccinated, so I don't give a shit, but for the average guy or girl or whatever that is vaccinated, should they still be concerned that?
No.
Okay.
No.
All
No.
right.
From all accounts, the transmission requires close contact with people with these pustules, abscesses, exchange of bodily fluids, etc., etc. The real danger is this, and this is why Paul Alexander has been beating this drum vigorously for the last month, and the CDC has only just got on board. The big concern is we don't want monkeypox jumping into the heterosexual community. And the way it would do that would be if bisexuals in contact with homosexuals are the door through which this enters the heterosexual community. And as Paul Alexander was saying, the solution to this from a public health perspective is very, very simple. All that would be required would be for male homosexuals to abstain from sexual contact of any kind for a period of 3 weeks, which would stop the epidemic as it is now. It's not a pandemic. It would stop the epidemic in its tracks. That does not seem to be happening, and that, of course, you could call that irresponsible behavior. However, for the average individual, shaking hands, hugging, whatever, kissing in a heterosexual relationship, the likelihood of contracting monkeypox must be infinitesimally low at this time. And that's before, of course, the introduction of the vaccine, which might have some impact on the incidence.
Yeah, I don't really see anybody refraining from sexual contact for 3 weeks. And as you said earlier, that's not a purgative comment at homosexuals. That's just, homosexuals are guys, and I don't see guys refraining voluntarily from sexual contact. I mean, we couldn't. Nobody adequately, myself included, followed any sort of reasonable or respectable lockdown measures for COVID. I don't see anyone stopping for something more impulsive than a sex drive, especially in a healthy male. And if so, to me, if the concern is that, so we have this lowered threshold of I guess immune operation capabilities through the vaccine, I would say then it's not, if the concern is that it travels via active bisexuals from a homosexual relationship, homosexual intercourse to heterosexual intercourse, and then it could go horizontally between heterosexual partners.
Right.
I wouldn't say that if that's the concern, then it wouldn't be if, it's just when. It's just, I mean, sheer numbers, just probability. It's not if, it's when, right? I mean, that, I feel like that's a pretty reasonable
Well,
statement.
it's just a general public health principle of containment. This is
Yeah, but
just because this is involving the homosexual community with all the political implications of identifying it with that community. It's really no different from containment of any other kind of transmissible disease. For example, smallpox, you had rigorous containment.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, this isn't anywhere near as lethal. It's not killing people. It's a transient illness
yeah,
that is unpleasant in many respects, but it doesn't actually kill people.
yeah,
But containment is a fundamental public health policy.
yeah. Well, again, I don't really. It'd have to be something. And this is me, with my 40 years experience of being a public health official. Is yeah, I'm clearly talking out of my ass. The only thing that's changed between the first episode of you coming on and this episode is I have a better camera. I'm no more of a doctor. But
You've got a new hairstyle, Tommy.
it's actually called laziness. I just
you
haven't been
don't
cutting it.
you don't look 40-ish at all.
It's well, that's part of my public relations campaign. That's the problem Fauci had, is he looked creepy. I have a whole PR team. They say that grow the hair out. They say don't wear a white coat, wear a black shirt, throws them for a loop. It's not Fauci, it's Carrigan. It's a little stronger, it's a little more abrupt. Got that. I don't have that
Oh,
shitty Italian thing going. I got the white Irish blue eyes, the easy target. They'll call him a Nazi. They won't focus on his medical. It's I got a whole team behind it. It's well thought out.
that was your opening, Tommy, which you've missed to comment on the fact that I don't look anything like 78.
No, you don't. You
Thank
actually
you.
don't. I
Thank
didn't
you.
know you're 78. You're
Thank you.
78?
That was a little bit late, Tommy, but
I
I'll
didn't know
take
you're
it.
78. I genuinely didn't know you're 78. I'm not kissing your ass. Holy shit. You were like, I don't know, 70, 71.
So you're halfway,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but the point is even though not being a doctor, I feel like I was born in 1990, so I don't remember it, but I mean, I feel like unless it is something like AIDS where the result is death, and that's just talking as a human, right? If you say the importance of, I don't know, checking the oil in your engine, I don't really give a shit. Okay, a light comes on the dashboard, I'll turn it off. The importance of wearing a seatbelt is death. And so like I'll do that as a average human, right? That's the kind of the thing that I know, wear a seatbelt. The light comes on in the airplane, wear a seatbelt. If you hit turbulence, you fly up, you'll break your neck on the ceiling. Noted. So unless it's something like AIDS, where the consequence is death, right? Even, I mean, even just, someone right now is like, oh, you'll get herpes. A college age male doesn't really care. They're a drunk, horny frat guy doesn't care. Whatever. If the consequence is death, right? Even the craziest frat guy knows, even the dumbest, craziest frat friends I had knew never to take a painkiller while drinking because the consequence was death. Nobody cared about doing coke while drinking. You'll get arrested, whatever. They don't care. So unless the consequence is death,
Mm.
I don't see anyone practicing any sort of respectable medical containment.
Well,
Being, do you know
another
what I'm
way of
saying?
expressing that as a pathologist is um,
I,
life is not about delaying death. Life is about living,
yeah.
and it's up to each of us to balance those risks of daily life and enjoy our time here, which is unfortunately very short.
Well, but to me, see, I come out and I say it in a brutal, vulgar manner, and then Dr. Hodkinson is the cleanup crew. He comes out and says it in a medical, mature manner. But even that's kind of supporting my point, right? I'm 30, I'm 32 now. If I'm 32, I'm heterosexual, but if I'm homosexual, I'm looking up the risks of monkeypox, and I'm going, it just, it's kind of gross and it probably it's painful, but I'm not going to die. Yeah, I don't care. I'm just going to go about my day. Is
Yeah, but I think there's also has to be recognition of the societal responsibility for that group. It's a temporary, it will be only a temporary intervention. And what we're desperately trying to avoid here is escaping into the heterosexual community, which would be then a much bigger problem. And right now, there's not much evidence of that. Those children that came down with it must have been in close contact with people, adults with it. But there's been no obvious heterosexual transmission at this time. But Paul Alexander's concern is very real
mm-hmm.
that it can be contained, and CDC has now come out with that essential guidance as well. And it's very prudent. It's very temporary. It's not a massive intrusion into life, and it would be for each male homosexual to make his own decision.
So do you think that, and now again, this is speculating wildly, but um, I don't think it's really wild speculation because I'm kind of just using patterns from COVID, which was just 2 years ago. It's like right when we started invading Iraq, you can hear a lot of friends, a lot of guys my age who served, in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. A lot of them had fathers who served, and a lot of those fathers warned that this was another Vietnam. And it wasn't a random statement because it was based on actual experience. Vietnam. This is a
Mhm.
quagmire. Don't start it. And sure enough, that's what it became. So I don't think it's that absurd to try to draw conclusions from COVID, especially when it was just 2 years ago and we're already seeing a lot of the same patterns sort of echoing. You're just replacing COVID with monkeypox. To go from there, like you said, the political ramifications of it being a primarily homosexually transmitted disease, do you think that it won't be until it is amongst the heterosexual population that it will be addressed more, that the media will maybe beat the drum more? Is it that it's right now, is it that it's too touchy and volatile of a thing? No one wants to criticize it, no one wants to point it out because it is primarily between homosexual males? Could that
I,
be a
I,
case?
I suspect the incidence of it will continue to increase and then level off when the vaccine, which is apparently pretty effective, when the vaccine starts being administered to a significant number of people in that community, then I think that will probably be the end of it. It's yet another, in the grand scheme of things, to people that really don't understand the condition. It's really another layering on of the fear strategy that has been so effective at dividing us all and making us lose trust in each other and institutions. Um, the biggest lesson to come out of COVID, well, there are a few lessons, but perhaps the biggest lesson is that these interventions had one common conclusion, and that was the loss of trust at
Yeah.
every level, within a family, within a workplace, with the government, with the courts, with the church, even. Loss of trust that the people that you relied upon historically to be your protector and good, solid, you know, um, documentation of evidence, that's gone out of the window. And because of that, let me just say something here,
Yeah.
personally, Tommy. I was on a podcast listening intently yesterday to Dr. Wakefield, who has been widely denounced as a heretic because of his associating the triple vaccine in children for mumps, rubella, and chickenpox with autism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I trashed him historically as some kind of quack.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have to ask yourself, hello, Robert.
Hi, Roger and Tommy. I apologize. We had
Don't
placed
apologize.
this as a tomorrow call, not a today call.
Oh, that's probably my bad then. I've been doing that all week. So if that's my fault, I apologize. But don't apologize. We're talking about monkeypox. Dr. Hodkinson, I don't know if you guys have met Dr. Hodkinson, Dr. Malone. Dr. Malone, this is
We
Dr.
have.
Hodkinson. Okay, all right. Well, all right, I'm the idiot. So we were talking about obviously monkeypox and kind of the transmission of it, and really I guess the core of what we've been saying is what Dr. Alexander was saying, is the fear is that it will jump from homosexuals through bisexuals to heterosexuals. Dr. Hodkinson said earlier that this is a symptom of the globally reduced immune systems from the vaccine, and that we are going to see diseases that were normally below the threshold of being in the public eye will start to rise into the public eye. And my question to, I guess, both of you, but I guess to Dr. Malone, because you're here now, is this something to be concerned about, or is this a simple money grab because we are seeing the same patterns that we just saw 2 years ago of really of money is what it is, the money, the vaccines, the emergency purchases by governments in mass, regardless if it works, regardless of the lethality, regardless of the fear mongering, and obviously the misinformation suppressing will be coming. Do you think that this is simply a money grab, or is this indeed the real deal that we should all be terrified of?
So my answer is going to be basically all of the above. Let's start with because you rolled out a bunch of things there. See if I can keep it all in my brain while I try to answer them.
Sorry.
The transmission issue. It's long been known that monkeypox, or whatever they're going to call it now, after they rename it, and you heard what Tucker Carlson's group recommends. So you know that there's an effort underway now to rename it, and the WHO is taking recommendations. And I'll just leave it at that. If you're not aware, your viewers can hunt down what Tucker's audience has suggested.
All
right. It's long been known that this pox virus, which is only named monkeypox because of the circumstance of it having first been detected in a colony of non-human primates, but it's more common. Indigenous host is rodents in Africa. And the pouched rat importation in the United States that was responsible for the prior outbreak that spread into the prairie dog population, which are also susceptible, kind of underscores that. I guess people brought over pouched rats from Africa as pets. I have trouble wrapping my head around that. But so we do have this prior outbreak. Like all pox viruses, contact, particularly with the lesions, which are loaded with serous fluid plus a pox virus, particularly in the event that there is any kind of a compromise of the integrity of the epithelium. I'm using fancy words because I'm here with an esteemed pathologist. So breaks in the skin or other skin-like structures, whether it's in the rectum or otherwise, that involve contact with the fluids from these lesions is the classic source of transmission. So there's no question that heterosexual, that the sexual orientation in general with pox virus, and I think this is the type 2, or I don't know if this is what they're now calling clade 2, the less pathogenic of the two main branches in monkeypox. That contact with the fluid from these lesions, and there is some, the initial reactions by some health officials of wanting to mask, etc. Some of the pathology can involve respiratory tract infection. Oh shoot, Jill, can you take this and just tell them we'll call them back? It's an important call. That the transmission normal route is not that of a sexually transmitted disease. We had this Canary Islands event, literally the world's largest gay rave party, with about 50,000 attendees that I had documented and placed the website for this event. Seems to have been a key point of entry of this virus into the men who have sex with men population. And it seems to have spread rapidly within that Canary Islands event population. There was another one also about the same time. And then there's functionally a diaspora from that island and that big party throughout Europe and the United States and North America. So by this MSM population. So I have seen images self-posted of members of the MSM community with oral lesions that are restricted to the oral region, and as well as, of course, the anal perirectal lesions, which seem to be associated with this particular transmission series. My understanding is upwards. I've heard various numbers up to 99% of the cases presenting in the MSM community, and I've heard of I think 4 or maybe more now cases of children or adolescents that have close contact with that MSM community, undefined the nature of that have become infected. There is the discussion from the Portuguese group that did a lot of the early sequencing that this particular strain seems to have genetically, I'm going to say varied. I could say drifted, but we don't have evidence that it's a natural drift or some other thing relating to the sequence of this subgroup of viruses that are currently circulating. And there's been some speculation about those genetic differences conferring greater infectivity. Which raises the in pox viruses being double-stranded DNA viruses generally don't drift at any kind of the rate that these respiratory RNA viruses do. So then that raises the question whether those genetic alterations might, there's speculation that they might represent laboratory derived versus naturally evolving. I've heard no data demonstrating that anything other than the let's say behavior practices of this MSM cohort as being responsible for the tissue sites where we're seeing the infection. I've heard from frontline physicians that I forget the name of the drug, but there is an agent now, and we covered it in the Substack, that appears to result in a very strong clinical response. The CDC on its website makes statements to the effect that this is very speculative and it's not yet known whether the agent is active. But what I'm hearing from frontline clinicians is very rapid clinical response, but that in this MSM population, particularly those that have the, I'm gently saying, perineal infection pattern, which is a very sensitive, highly innervative region, as we all know, that there is extreme pain associated with this, and that patients are being hospitalized for IV pain control. But only in those, Jill's emphasizing, only in those patients that have the, let's say, perineal pattern, not so much the oral pattern. So that's what I'm hearing about all that. Now, in terms of, is this monkeypox? I'm of the opinion that Mr. Tedros's overruling his committee recommendations 9 against, 6 in favor on the second round, after they had added apparently new people into the committee that had more direct experience with this population. I'm again choosing my words. Clearly his declaration that this represented a tie which he had to break is absurd on its face. There was multiple suggestions in social media that by I think Eric Ding and others, that there was strong lobbying on the part of this MSM interest group in getting this declaration made, and I suspect that interest group had strong contributions to the decision of the current executive branch, whoever's running it in the United States, to make the decision about the declaration. There's no. It's of interest that the sponsor of the manufacturer of the Jynneos licensed product wrote a letter to this task force that's now headed up by Bob Redfield, formerly CDC, formerly U.S. Army, longtime AIDS Bob Gallo buddy, that the CEO of Jynneos objected and raised concerns about this dose sparing strategy and the logic of inoculation intradermally with a 1/5 dose, which is a common dose sparing strategy that the vaccine industry advocates from time to time. Intradermal Mantoux type injections are a lot trickier than the typical subdermal injections. There are no data supporting the safety or effectiveness of this route of administration, to my knowledge, in humans, and absolutely no data in children. And important to note that the FDA has already authorized emergency use in children of this live attenuated, it's highly attenuated product, but the product is contraindicated in individuals who are immunocompromised. And as my understanding is, something like 60%, thereabouts, don't quote me please, of the patients presenting with the monkeypox from this MSM population are clinically have AIDS associated with the HIV. 41%, I'm corrected.
And 90% of the cases are MSM.
In 99% is Jill's quoting a latest study. of the cases presenting with clinical monkeypox are MSM.
Which make it basically MSM.
So in terms of the thesis that we have a further exacerbation of risk due to immunocompromise from the mRNA products, or even the J&J or other advectored products. I think it's a reasonable hypothesis that does not yet have data. Whereas the hypothesis that HIV positivity is correlated fairly strongly with, in my understanding is clinical AIDS is correlated strongly with presentation with clinical monkeypox requiring hospital or medical treatment. I think is consistent with there being an enhanced risk of clinical disease from monkeypox exposure in people with immunocompromise. And so I think it's the professor's hypothesis that the mRNA inoculations, I again choosing my words, I will no longer call them vaccines. They don't meet the criteria of an effective vaccine, in my opinion. But there's absolutely documentation, as the professor suggests, of these products being associated with a variety of different types of immunocompromise, some being specific, like the vaccine imprinting problem, or the original antigenic sin problem, and other ones non-specific, all the way down to the mitochondrial damage that seems to be associated with the spike protein. So that was a lot of words. I hope I answered all those questions that you gave me so quickly.
I think you did, and to my astonishment, you're one of the few that will actually take all of the gibberish I say in one statement and answer it. Most people pick one and hope I forget the rest, and I already have. And I think the real question is are we ever going to get Jill Malone on this podcast? Because she seems to be your lifeline that beams to people. Turn to you as the expert, but you turn to Jill. So I want to go to the source. But Dr. Hodkinson,
okay.
That's the end goal. That's the end. I'm at 885 episodes. I'm not sure how many more it will take, but I will get Jill Malone on here, and then that's when I'll wrap up the podcast. It's the whole thing is a psyop. Dr. Hodkinson, your thoughts on all of that Dr. Malone just said?
Well, we're totally in sync. Robert has access to much more detailed information than I have, which I think corroborates our general assessment of this. I was saying earlier on, Robert, just extending the commentary regarding the gene therapy for COVID. I was saying that just yesterday, Robert, I was on a podcast listening to Andy Wakefield in Britain.
Yes.
Achieved some notoriety years ago, associating.
One is aware of this.
Yeah, you were on it, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm fully aware of Dr. Wakefield's tortured history.
Yeah.
I choose that. That's another careful word choice.
Yeah. What was really disturbing to me was, as you might call me an academic snot. All right. I rejected him years ago, and along with him, Kennedy, this whole autism thing. I rejected it wholesale because the CDC wasn't supporting it. Right. Well, I'm in an awful situation right now. The COVID experience has resulted in me totally distrusting anything that the CDC doesn't just say now, but has said in the past, to the extent that maybe there really is a connection with autism. But beyond
I think that
Just a second. Beyond that, what else have they passed through with trivial or suboptimal assessment? And that affects that fundamental thing called trust that we have in our profession for the people that we were previously relying upon to do these reviews. And it's turning into a most tragic time for medicine, Robert.
So again, it's my opportunity to say we are aligned. I'm aware of other information relating to Dr. Wakefield's position that I cannot, I'm embargoed from discussing. But my sense is that there is much more to come that's consistent with your concerns. There are, as if one dives into this, it is an ugly story of the role of the CDC, suppression of information. Jill's busy. So she's just pointing out the recent Substack we put out, highlighting that there are now 81 clinical trials in progress for the mRNA vaccines, and they seem to be being allowed to proceed not under an EUA umbrella, but a general use umbrella, including for influenza, without ever having addressed the underlying issues that we're all now sensitized to about the biodistribution, the toxicology, the role of the pseudouridine. It goes on and on and on. There seems to that this is consistent with the underlying kind of thesis we're talking about, which is, to be blunt, the CDC not doing its job, nor is the FDA, their judgment seems to have been compromised by their tight relationship with the vaccine pharmaceutical medical industrial complex, and it appears that that's been a long-standing thing. And I think there is a reasonable chance that we're going to see this issue of Dr. Wakefield's having been railroaded come back at us with new awareness of the practices of the CDC. I'm asked from time to time whether I would serve in an administration that is committed. I'm again choosing my words. Committed to addressing the issues that exist with the administrative state in the United States government, within HHS in one position or another. It's my opinion that we now have to take the point that Kennedy has been drilling home for years now, which is that the clinical studies to support the safety and effectiveness of much of the pediatric vaccine schedule, including the vaccine interaction issues. Just the data aren't there. And this is what my friend Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been saying. I'm going to be with him next weekend, by the way, up in the Northeast. What he has been saying all the way through is not the statement that he's attributed to of being an anti-vaxxer or statements that the vaccines aren't safe. His position has been all the way through basically the show me the data position. And he's been trying to force that show me the data issue. And as documented in his book on the real Anthony Fauci, he has pushed Tony to the point where there's been a clear, explicit acknowledgement that those data don't exist. Roger, I think we are in a position where, as I had been warning, would occur, back over a year ago, that if they continued down this path of bypassing the norms, that the entire, large fraction of the public would lose faith in the vaccine enterprise, and there would be a significant blowback in compromising faith in public health. And I think we're here.
I'd agree with you. I mean, we're all being accused, Tommy, of fomenting vaccine hesitancy because of our reaction to the gene therapy with COVID. And there may well be still some vaccines out there that are good. We just don't know right now, given the doubts that are being cast on the CDC. There may well be some vaccines out there that are useful, but we don't know. But the general population could well throw the baby out with the bathwater. Vaccine hesitancy could have a terrible negative consequence. And it's a little bit like the Democrats and the Russian hoax. Whenever they're accusing you of something, you can be damn sure they're doing exactly that. It's the CDC itself that is now fomenting vaccine hesitancy because of the corrupt nature with which we're now aware that they operate under.
It's kind of like the concern, growing up and going to Catholic schools and always being told that, if you ever touch marijuana, you'll go crazy and die. And then you get older and you try pot, and maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But really, you kind of just fall asleep and eat a cookie. And then you start questioning other things. They said, well, if you smoke pot, you're going to go crazy. That wasn't true at all. It was actually kind of fun. They also said crystal meth is bad. So maybe they're lying about that too. And I have friends that were 18 and they're like, well, they lied about that. What else are they lying about? I have friends that overdosed. I had friends that lost oxygen to the brain and are now mentally stunted because you have one lie forced down you. And I'm not advocating for the youth to do drugs, but when you openly lie across the board, you do lose trust. And that, I brought that up with Dr. McCullough last week, is perhaps going to be the greatest crime of all of this. Is not the vaccine injuries and not the.
I say this closing statement, you might say, trust is the cement that holds society together.
Yeah.
At a family level, in a business, in government, in the courts, it's trust that holds us together. Once we start being suspicious of everything, we become paranoid and so isolated. We're ripe for the picking for the aspirations of the World Economic Forum and all the other things that are in store. Right for the picking.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to stop worrying about everything that's presented to us and just get on with accepting risk as a factor of ordinary life.
Well, that's actually something that I believe Dr. Malone and I discussed last time. Was it's called the rug pull theory, that this isn't by accident. They want to completely erode your trust in everything, because then and only then will you start to call for something other than the existing forms of national governments, and that's how you replace it with a world government. But to Dr. Malone.
Oh, I'm letting you riff.
Sorry. I thought
that is the reason for the Malone doctrine, which is all about integrity.
Yeah.
So that's the logic. Is what we have is a widespread failure of institutional integrity and transparency.
And it seems to be intentional now. And I only got about 10 minutes left, so I'll try to wrap up my rants. As the most qualified doctor here, I have all of the degrees, as everybody knows, so I would speak from pure wisdom and the height of the ivory tower. But it kind of seems like, in much the same way, and not my words, but from retired special forces guys I've interviewed, that the global war on terror was the military industrial complex buffet. It was there's a vague target, global terror. What is that? You can't ever tie an end to it. You go from Iraq, you go from Afghanistan to Iraq, doing drone strikes in Yemen. We got like 100 special forces operations a day, and like somewhere in Africa, apparently Delta Force is operating in South America. The terrorism never stops, which is good for the people making money on it.
Well, don't forget the Sandinistas.
Yeah,
that was kind of a prelude.
It goes forever. You got to have the communists. You got to have. It doesn't matter. Nazis, Japanese, commies, China, whatever. It's going to go forever. Then it's going to be the aliens. It doesn't matter. We'll go forever. It kind of seems that if the COVID vaccine is lowering the immune system capabilities of the average human across the planet, is this the gift that keeps on giving to the biopharmaceutical complex? Because it's not necessarily that it's monkeypox. It's that it's like how they do burns in the forests in like California, right? They do controlled burns of the undergrowth so that when a fire starts, it doesn't spread between the huge redwoods. It just, they burn it all out, so it's just dirt, so it just dies. If you let that grow, the forest fire will go forever, and that's good for, big firefighting. If they're lowering the immune system just across the board, it's going to be monkeypox, and then it's going to be weaponized strep throat, and then it's going to be, herpes from hell, and it's just going to go forever. And as long as you're printing the vaccines, you're making money hand over fist, and then the governments are, it's a perfect scenario for them because it's an ability to grab control, the naked raw pursuit of power. Will we look back in 5, 10, 20 years? Not that either of you have the crystal ball, but I will always put that weight on y'all's shoulders. Are we going to look back at this and say that's where it started? It's the gift that keeps on giving, because it's just going to be, we got a vaccine for that. We got emergency use authorization for that. We got this, we got that. The people have been conditioned to not question anything. It's squashed as misinformation. They'll look at Dr. Malone's face, Dr. Hodkinson's face, and as long as you guys are opposed to it, the average person will be for it because you guys are evil. Dr. Malone, your thoughts on that? Is this the gift that keeps on giving? And should I just start investing in Pfizer and stop complaining? Do I just got to go full black pilled and cash in?
It is. So I don't want to chew up too much time because I want to hear what Roger has to say. But it is notable that Mr. Boria, CEO of Pfizer, is now infected, and he used that basically as a marketing opportunity to promote the drug agent that he has, which is clearly not effective and is resulting in more prolonged periods of viremia and shedding and infectivity. And without batting an eyelid about the fact that his vaccine product is not effective, otherwise he wouldn't have been infected. So the underlying thesis that you're touching on is this tension between in whether there's preconceived intention to enable a product that has these really unfortunate adverse events. And to imagine that the likes of Pfizer and Moderna had so much knowledge and wisdom about the human immune system that they, by preconception, developed these agents that have this unfortunate adverse event. I can't go there. I don't see them as that informed in terms of biology. I see a rushed system driven in part by the intelligence community for deployment, and that had a number of adverse events, which I personally have to believe they did not foresee, but that doesn't excuse the deployment now of next generation products and the broadening of the application of the product now that we know those signals exist. That just seems to be flat out financial opportunism combined with regulatory capture. So I'm kind of, Tommy, in the camp these days, having, as you know, spent the better part of 2 years now chasing this. I don't know if it's the right metaphor, chasing this dragon, but I'm now of the persuasion that there is emergent phenomena having to do with a variety of different actors interacting in a system basis that has given rise to much of this, and that the opportunity has then been exploited by a variety of actors to further their interests.
Right.
That the genesis of the pathogen, which is really not that pathogenic, is the data are very strong that it involves gain of function research in the laboratory that gave rise to it. How it escaped and the cascade of events in the fourth quarter of 2019, I think, is unresolved and probably will never be resolved. The cascade of events since that point, I'm just getting ready to write another chapter in the book. That the interface between the Scott Atlas book and the Deborah Birx book and some of the other things in my own personal experiences with the IC right around January 4th, all point to the U.S. intelligence community having had some very, very early awareness of the emergence of this pathogen into the population sometime in the September, October, November timeframe, which paradoxically coincides exactly with Event 201. And then they appear to have reacted very strongly, almost overreacted, almost like a panic around January 3rd and 4th, and then pushed a series of egregiously counterproductive measures like masking, lockdowns, et cetera, that strongly damaged the economy based on the logic that they were being effective in China. And this I'm going to name this name, Matthew Pottinger.
Oh yeah.
Who's working directly with Deborah Birx. And I'm trying to, the call I just received was from Steve Bannon, who's a friend of his, that Jill had to take. So that's where I'm at, is trying to track down those events that occurred between January 3rd and let's say March of 2020 that gave rise to this cascade that clearly was not aligned with the pre-existing agreements both at WHO and USHHS about how to manage a pandemic outbreak of a RNA respiratory virus. So that's where I stand. I think there's some kind of organic emergent phenomena going on here, and then subsequent exploitation by a number of actors. And with that, I'll shut up and let Roger share his point of view.
Tommy, I wouldn't invest in Pfizer if I were you. There's rumors that the life insurance companies are going to sue their pants off.
All right.
And that might not be a
life
right
insurance.
I would end on a note of optimism. I think it is going to get worse before it gets better. But remember Napoleon's famous adage, never stop your opponent from screwing up. It makes them easier to beat.
Yeah.
It's my opinion that when the dust settles from COVID and the investigative journalists write the definitive autopsy with bullet format, lay language, there's going to be a revulsion in the general population, the scale of which we can't imagine. And I believe that sets the stage for a new era in politics based upon those traditional values that we're all familiar with: religion, trust, hard work, family, etc., etc. I think old politics is dead. I think the general population are going to get wind of that, and it creates an enormous opportunity, not just for Trump, but for jurisdictions elsewhere, such as Alberta, for example, where you may be unaware, there's an absolutely vibrant move now to declare independence from Canada.
That's awesome.
And that could be a beacon for the rest of the world. You know, remember, it all started here in Alberta, the truckers' convoy. It morphed internationally.
Yeah.
It's now energized the rural community in Alberta like you would not believe. You can cut the anger with a knife out there. And if Alberta declares independence in 3 years, which I believe is quite likely, we could be the beacon for the rest of the world as to how to define the new era of democracy, which I'm calling Magna Carta 2.
And don't forget, I mean, just last week, Joe Kent won in Washington State. I mean, he was in
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
He's really like the only candidate I've ever gone out of my way to have on here. I think he's a great guy. I think his story is inspiring, and he doesn't, mostly because, like Dr. Malone and Dr. Hodkinson, he came on my podcast back when I had like 100 subscribers, and I was like, that's cool. And he's come on several times, but he won in Hippieville, USA. And to me, that was, Anthony Sabatini's gonna win in Florida, but he's in Florida. It's, of course he's gonna win. But you look at Joe Kent, this tatted up Green Beret, pro-Trump, did an interview with Dr. Malone, anti-World Economic Forum, calls out John Bolton every day. The fact that he won, to me, that's like, oh wow. I mean, in Washington State, like, that's where like Chaz was, right? Or Chad, that communist like forward operating base. He won there. And to me, and then I saw Dr. Malone retweeted or put it on Getter, and I was like, oh my God. So I think you might be right, Dr. Hodkinson. I think it might be birthing something new. And obviously we won't see it because the news isn't going to cover it.
Yeah, we've got the number of Klaus Schwab and the WEF. They've overplayed their hand.
Yeah.
And now, instead of it being called the Great Reset, I think it's better termed the Great Reject.
100%. And I kind of on a closing note, I think you will find this funny. Earlier in the year, I was at a social event with a lot of people I didn't know. And whenever someone says, oh, I watch your podcast, I always kind of take a step back because I don't know if it's I love it or it's like you're a Nazi. But someone came up to like, I like it, man. You got a lot of interesting guests. So I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And they go, but just so you know, it is disputed whether or not Dr. Malone actually holds any patents. And I was like, dude, I'm just here to drink and unsuccessfully talk to girls. Like, I'm not trying to do this. And we're like in the middle of a kitchen. He's like, no, I just want to show you because like if you actually look this up, and I was like, dude, I don't. Yes, he does. He does hold the patents, but so I guess I'm going down with you guys. And on a final comment, Dr. Malone, if anybody watching this, if you kind of squint, you and that lion are looking more and more alike with the mane. I realized my eyes are terrible, but I was looking at it earlier and I was like, he's looking more and more like a lion. So on a completely unprofessional note, Dr. Malone, you look like a lion, and I think that's badass. Jill Malone is the smartest person in this room, even though no one can see her. And Dr. Hodkinson, the head of the Ottawa Trucker Militia, obviously I love you as well. Both of you. Thank you so much. I'll put all the information in the description. Go check out Dr. Malone's Substack. Dr. Malone, I also believe your book, Lies My Government Told Me, is coming out in October. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do this week is get the last edits done. And it's a challenge because the data keep coming in. I mean, it's amazing.
I think you just need to do a rolling. Well, what are you doing wasting time on podcasts? You should be, that's very unprofessional of you. You should be putting your nose to the grindstone and not being tempted by podcasts like this. I'm very ashamed of you. But both of you.
When Tommy rings, we say yes.
That means the world. That's the conspiracy I love the most is I don't think Tommy's podcast is organic. He has on Dr. Malone too many times. This is the one I heard. Sorry, we'll wrap it up. This is my new favorite one. Tommy is a CIA because of his connections to Dr. Malone and Joe Kent. And I have married you two together and you helped put him in the office. So I think it's flattering that people think I'm capable of being a Central Intelligence Agency operative. And yeah, so that's my new favorite conspiracy. But
Well, my former friends in the CIA would dispute that thesis, I suspect.
yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna fan the flames. Anything to get some subscribers to this thing. I am CIA. You heard it here first. I'm doing this podcast from Langley. Dr. Malone is actually in the other room, and that's how it all goes down. Thank you so much. God bless you both. You're both awesome. Stay safe, everybody. God bless. Love each other.